folks, welcome to ThaiLawForum, and we're here today to talk about a recent article that came out in the Atlantic magazine. The article is called The Highlands, Exploring Drug Tourism Across Southeast Asia.
The basic theme of this article seems to be that young travelers and backpackers travel to Thailand, and during their travels here, whether it be on their gap year or short vacations or summer vacations, that these young travelers engage in drug abuse. Now, I'm sure we're all shocked, and I'm sure Allison is shocked to hear about this, but in the tradition of hard-hitting journalistic reporting, we do have this article on the underground drug culture in Thailand, and it reminded us of the famous movie Casablanca with Humphrey Bogart, and the immemorable scene where the constable comes into the hotel only to discover gambling. Let's take a look at that clip.
How can you close me up? On what ground?
I'm shocked to find that gambling is going on in here.
You're winning, sir.
Oh, thank you very much. Everybody out at once.
Now, Joe, besides the boring premise of the article, there's a number of inaccuracies that were reported that I take a great deal of issue with. The first one is that the author blatantly portrays residents of Southeast Asia as unscrupulous criminals who are attempting to lure naive young Westerners into using drugs. This is completely inaccurate. Most Southeast Asians frown on drug use, and for that matter would be extremely offended at the sight of a tourist in at a religious shrine in a public area who was under the influence.
Well, I like to call this type of journalism or writing the beach journalism. And the reason why I call it the beach journalism is because there was a very famous movie that came out a few years ago starring Leonardo DiCaprio, where a bunch of tourists, Western tourists, came to Thailand and found a deserted beach and got involved in a very exotic underworld, very high-risk underworld, little known to outsiders in Thailand. And it seems like in this genre of journalism, what happens is typically a young person comes over to Thailand for a short period of time, and maybe 2 weeks, maybe a few months, and then goes back to his own country, and he's a self-appointed expert on Thailand and Thailand culture or tourist culture in Thailand, and writes an episode about it. So at the Atlantic, rather than looking for a real expert, somebody from the addiction treatment community in Thailand, someone from the rights advocate community in Thailand, a government officer in Thailand, or a professional journalist, went after the beach type journalism. And just to give you an idea of what I'm talking about, let's see a clip from the beach and the young foreigners discovering this exotic underworld.
Indeed, and besides that inaccuracy, Joe, I would also point out that this article makes the assertion that the biggest threat facing young tourists is methamphetamine use across Southeast Asia, and this is because methamphetamine pills called yaba are socially acceptable in Thailand, and for that matter all across Laos, Vietnam, Cambodia, etc. This is untrue. Yaba is considered a very low-class drug in this area, and for that matter, I think it's highly inaccurate to make the assertion that most Westerners could not access methamphetamines in their homelands.
Another interesting inaccuracy in the article is the idea that there are recreational or illicit drugs that are available over the counter in Thailand. If anything, in our experience, the over-the-counter types of medicines that you can get here are very restricted as far as anything that can be used recreationally. The FDA in Thailand is run by a very bureaucratic, very conservative bunch of people, and if anything, they're more restrictive than they are in the U.S. In fact, in the U.S., there's a booming over-the-counter stimulant market, a booming supplement market, and these things would never pass muster with the Thailand FDA, but yet they're sold openly in the United States. And the most recent craze in the United States, which again would have no chance of being passing the Thai FDA or being sold in drugstores or convenience stores in Thailand, is the inhalable caffeine that's making the grounds in the U.S. and is becoming a very popular, if unusual, legal stimulant. Let's have a look at that particular product.
That is a new product developed by a Harvard scientist that allows you to literally breathe in your daily dose of caffeine.
It's like a coffee, or it might be like a Red Bull. The advantage of the AeroShot is that it's the act of breathing.
AeroShot has already caught the ire of some politicians, partly because of a company ad showing people partying while trying the product.
And even if you don't have a problem with caffeine, Joe, I think you've touched on this before, but this article represents a missed opportunity. The writer of this article had a chance to talk with law enforcement professionals, had a member to talk with academic writers who know a lot about drug use in the region, had the opportunity to talk with drug advocacy groups, and didn't. This was a chance to present a realistic look at drug use in Southeast Asia, and the writer completely missed the boat.
I think there's a certain amount of ethnocentrism that's apparent in this article, and it's common among journalists or foreigners visiting Asia or Thailand, and it's as if the author is the great white hunter, or in this case huntress, coming to explore this very primitive country, which is not really an accurate picture. And focusing on, the article mainly focused on the two drugs of abuse, marijuana and psilocybin mushrooms in various Thai resorts. Now, let's just state at the outset that Asians, in our experience, are very anti-drugs. There are very strict laws, and if you're going to come to Thailand or Southeast Asia, we advise you to stay as far away as possible from illegal drugs or illegal activity as a whole. That being said, however, we think that focusing on marijuana and psilocybin mushrooms as a major risk to the youth is rather misplaced in the broad scheme of things. Over the world, and particularly in the U.S., North America, we currently have a very serious drug abuse problem with prescription drugs, and more people are dying in the USA from prescription drug abuse than from any other cause. And all you have to do is look at the recent headlines with Whitney Houston passing away recently, Michael Jackson passing away, the Rush Limbaugh scandal where he was addicted to a massive amount of OxyContin, and the fact that doctors are basically acting like drug pushers in the U.S. with certain of these recreational drugs that are under the color of law is far, far more dangerous than marijuana and psilocybin mushrooms, which are basically agricultural products that have thousands of years or even tens of thousands of years of human use, and have a much more safety-oriented safety profile than prescription drugs, which are highly dangerous.
And that's all for today, folks. We're frustrated and we're done here. This is ThaiLawForum.
Thank you.